What's a film that the majority hates but you enjoy? Why do you enjoy this film? Tron Legacy gives me good nostalgia when I was a kid and I played the video game on my computer. All my housemates hate it, I have to defend it alone. Awesome soundtrack and visuals. The Chronicles of Ridslong. Man, I loved that film. Cheesy plot, cheesy action, cool world building. Carl Urban. What's not to love? Treasure Planet. Emo, the greatest movie Disney has ever made, and it completely flopped in the box office purely because it was ahead of its time. If they'd released that movie 10 years later, everyone would have adored the space pirate aesthetic. Constantine with Keanu Reeves and Rachel Weisz. I love that movie. Edit, so much love for this movie that I didn't know existed. I think most of the people that I've watched it with or have asked said they didn't care for it, and it probably has something to do with the genre. I guess they don't share the same movie interests as me. Glad there are so many people who agree this is a great movie. Brothers Grimm. I love the Halloween, Sleepy Hollow aesthetic, quirky humor, and how it ties several of the Grimm stories into one storyline. Bonus points for Heath Ledger and Matt Darnon. Edit, I was terrified when I opened Reddit and saw a bunch of replies in my inbox thinking, oh god, what did I say? All I can say is thanks for the varied responses and thanks for the gold. I really like Van Helsing, and I think it is a shame it never turned out sequels as planned. I just love the passion in it. Also, cannot deny, I was just a kid when it came out and it actually introduced me to the Universal horror universe. I really remember, on the DVD was a commercial for a Universe DVD horror box set that was being released, perhaps even in promotion for the movie, in which case. Thank you Van Helsing. And I bought that DVD box set. I was just a 14-year-old girl lol. The store clerk was looking so oddly at me. I bought the big one with the 3 head statues and all the movies, and I watched all the movies and the documentaries, and I still own them all, and all of that is because of Van Helsing, which is also watched multiple times. So yeah, gosh dang it, I have a fond relationship with that movie even if I can see in hindsight it's not that great. Street Fighter. Instead of thinking of it as a movie, think of it as a writer's challenge to take 16 8-bit characters with very little depth and sew them together into a storyline. It's a ridiculous storyline, but that's the fun of it, thinking of the writers struggling with it. I haven't met anyone else who likes Death to Smoochie. I fluff and love Death to Smoochie. Edit, why I like it, it's an absurd comedy about the dark side of children's television programming. Rainbow Randolph is Robin Williams's greatest performance. I say this having seen Flubber. Waterworld. It's just an enjoyable movie. People got so hyped before it came out that there was no chance it would live up to their expectations. But it's a good movie overall. Not the greatest ever or anything. But just a good movie. Hudson Hawk. Everybody hated it because they were expecting another Die Hard movie from Bruce Willis. If you accept it for what it is, it's hilarious. Probably my favorite Bruce Willis movie after 12 Monkeys. The Last Airbender. Nah, just kidding, that thing won't even get a serious mention on this thread's premise. Armageddon, mostly just for the first half. Steve Buscemi, Michael Clarke Duncan and the rest of the cast provide some good charm. Willis is also fun, albeit one of his weaker acting performances. Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck are hokey as hell, but somewhat charming, and the score and some of the visuals are pretty strong. Now it degrades like hell when they land on the asteroid, but up until that point it's reasonably enjoyable for me. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It is stupid but I enjoyed it. I've heard people say that The 13th Warrior is bad. It's even sitting at 33% rotten over at Rotten Tomatoes. For me, it's one of the best movies ever made. I fluffing loved that film as a kid. I've rewatched it over 20 times, probably the movie I've rewatched the most apart from Zoolander and Anchorman. Edit, first ever gold, and I couldn't be prouder. I'm so happy people appreciate this gem of a movie. I will rewatch it this weekend. I suggest you do so too. Mystery Men. Easily the best dialogue in a comedy I've ever seen. You must lash out with every limb, like the octopus who plays the drums. Quote. Underworld series. Kate Beckinsale at her glorious prime. Most teenage boys would be mesmerized by a gun-wielding vampire in latex. I have no idea why the ratings for the subsequent films were so bad. Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift. The driving in this movie is 100% real, in direct opposition to the staging, CGI, hydraulics of past movies. The Tokyo setting is pretty memorable, the car elevator alone still wows me, and it was the movie I used to sway other people over to the idea that these movies could do pretty unique things with cars and driving sequences. It's weird seeing Lil Bow Wow, Shad Moss, in a prominent role, and the main guy is so devoid of charisma I can't remember his real name or his character's name despite seeing the movie about 3 or 4 times, but the producers recognized that the driving sensei was probably the coolest motherfluffer that series ever had, so they needed to bring him in for ensuing installments. What Dreams May Come was panned for absolutely ridiculous reasons, even though it's a sad masterpiece. Jingle All the Way. Tank Girl. It was a fun campy popcorn comic book movie before they were popular. It's clear everyone involved was just having a blast making the movie and didn't take it too seriously. Enjoy it for what it is. Any of the National Treasure movies. Honestly, I think most of the haters just don't like it because it's cool to dislike Nicolas Cage. Is the plot pretty far out in terms of stretching historical details to make things work out in the story? Yes, but it's also pretty dang cool and unique approach for a family movie, especially considering it does have some pretty good factual historical details thrown in. I just always thought they were cool movies as a kid and have even watched them again as an adult and still appreciate them. Probably some of Nicolas Cage's better acting in my opinion, too. Sahara. Proper fun I reckon. The Doom movie. It's mindless fun and you can see hints of the actors that The Rock, Karl Urban and Rosamund Pike will become. However, I also never played the video game, so that may make a difference. The A-Team movie. The flying tank scene is probably my favorite scene from any movie ever. I like Bring It On. I even memorize the dialogue. Ghostbusters E. It's not a patch on the original, it's totally cheesy, bad things happen because New Yorkers are mean to each other, but it's very quotable, everything you are doing here is bad, I want you to know this, and Peter MacNicol is so over-the-top wonderful as Janosch. I liked Sphere, it was dope. Edit, I'm glad to see so much support for this movie, but I have a lot of people telling me it's a classic and that they weren't aware that anyone disliked this film. I'd just like to remind everyone that it was a critical and commercial failure that received a lot of negative backlash on release. That was supposed to be the point of this post, even though I'm seeing that a lot of the films that made it to the top of this thread were merely divisive even though being successful in terms of reviews and box office. Also to anyone who feels a need to comment that the book was better, I'm sure it was but I never read it. This post was about films and I commented saying Sphere was a film I enjoyed. These are two different mediums that shouldn't be compared. Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom. Classic case of studio fluffing things up for run time, but I like the director's cut and am a sucker for anything with history and knights and swords. Josie and the Meowcats. Jumparrot's just stupid fun. In Time with Justin Timberlake is probably in my top 3 favorite movies. The world is interesting, I love all of the puns, the sets are pretty cool. Everyone else seems to not know it exists or dislikes it. Speed Racer. God, does that movie shine in my memory. The original Resident Evil. Yes, it's about a bunch of people running around shooting zombies. You know. Because it's Resident Evil. Spice World. Hot Rod. Seriously underrated comedy. Edit, my first ever silver. Thank you kind stranger for not only the award, but for loving Hot Rod as much as I do. Repo, the genetic opera. The music's fantastic and the whole movie just checks almost every box I have for an enjoyable movie. I love pretty much every single bit of it. It's gory, kind of perverted, good music, funny, and morally questionable. I loved it. Hancock, Will Smith really does the character well. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies after the original trilogy. It's fluffing pirates like I loved them in childhood. Apparently, a ton of people hate the movie Brave. It's easily my second favorite Disney princess movie behind Mulan. Clash of the Titans. I could watch anything with Greek mythology and I'm sucker for any B-level cheese movie. Edit, the remake. I also enjoyed Wrath of the Titans just as much. Anything with Greek mythology, which makes my favorite film of all time to be Immortals. John Carter. Over-the-top action, decent dialogue, emo. The only thing that caused the movie to fail was a lack of star power. Signs. I know it's technically bad, but at the age I was when I saw it, about 12 I think, it really scared me in a good way. Actually, I enjoyed The Village too, even though I understand why it's not good. Sucker Punch. It may have a lot of flaws, but it is fun to watch. Not sure if it counts, but I really enjoyed Spider-Man 3. It's weird and all over the place and I love it.